Hey everybody.
Hello.
Welcome. Anthony, you're back.
I was back last week.
You were back last week, but we had such an important guest that it was not about
That's
you.
true.
So this is
true.
now about you. How was your time off, man? How did you enjoy it?
It was nice. Are we doing Anthony reviews his trip real quick? Because I got some shit to talk about Joshua Tree National Park.
Yeah, I've heard that you are less than impressed with Joshua Tree, and now we've just lost all of the California listeners.
Yeah, they might even agree with me when they hear my reasoning. I have thoroughly explored the states of Utah and Arizona. Pretty much like Utah middle to bottom, Arizona top to bottom, all the national parks within some of the state parks, and never has there been more underwhelming nature than Joshua Tree National Park. It's so underwhelming. They're weird trees, I'll give them that. But, you know, I just the whole time wished I was in Utah or Arizona, to be honest. So
it's really funny coming from someone like who lives in city land, the Northeast is just buildings and concrete, and you go to Joshua Tree and you're like, this is terrible.
Well, objectively, the California desert is the most boring of the United States deserts.
Wow. Okay.
It's just boring looking. Maybe Nevada might give it a run for its money.
A couple minutes into the show, we're dropping all the hot takes on which parts.
Just send me to the Sonoran Desert if you need to send me to one of them. You know, Saguaro's way more beautiful than Joshua Tree's. That's my take.
All right.
So
good.
So if you're going to Joshua Tree, make it early on your list of national parks, and then go to the other ones in Arizona and Utah.
Yeah, you want the ascending
the crescendo
curve of satisfaction, and you got to start with Joshua Tree.
I did get to
I've
check
never
off.
been, so I have to take your word for it.
I did complete the circuit on this trip, and I have now seen all of the space shuttles, like in person, live. I've seen them, most of the ones launch. I've seen all the ones that are still around launch, but now I've seen all the ones that still exist up close. And again, the Endeavor exhibit as it currently stands is the most underwhelming exhibit, but boy howdy, is the new one that they're building going to be epic.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know about this. I had to pull this up. And when I was there, they were breaking ground.
Were they? They're actually doing it? Because for a long time, it was like there was a little poster on the wall that's like, we hope
still there.
Like this one.
Still there. They still haven't gotten all their funding.
That external tank is sitting in the back alley waiting.
It just got delivered and it's out there.
Yeah. It's still covered in the shrink wrap from FedEx or whatever.
Pro tip: the Endeavor or the external tank that is at the California Science Center, the best view of it is from the Rose Garden next door, where you just go out the back of the center and go in the Rose Garden. That's beautiful, and Endeavor's sitting there. But yeah, this I'm trying to find a mock-up of what the new Science Center will look like. I think it was the Samuel Ocean thing, right?
Yeah, this will be the only shuttle that's standing upright on display, right?
It's gonna be epic because
they
got
the full stack. You'll have solids, ET, the whole launch stack, basically.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm having such a hard time finding a good mock-up of this, but
yeah, mock-ups is what they
reasonable.
do have. This thing's like SLS-1B, if you know what I mean.
This is the new model too, because there was an old mock-up floating around the internet that was not this one. This one's gonna have this glass floor that you can walk out over the stack.
Wow,
it's gonna be epic. Tyler is talking about how no one cared about the external tank. I literally went out to the garden because my wife had to go. She was doing something. She had to run to the other part of the museum for a second, and she was like, "All right, you take Will and go look at your tank if you want to." And I was like, great, I'll go out back. And it was just me and him standing there, and the one guard that sits. It was kind of like I felt like you at a launch. There was a handler for you to make sure that nothing went down. That's how I felt when I was looking at the tank. So.
Oh, that's amazing.
Anyway, yeah. So trip was good, and I got some travel and/or daycare funk that you can hear. Not COVID. I did a lot of tests.
Not COVID. A lot of tests.
It's weird.
Good. So you want to do some drinks before we get into some of the space news that you missed while you were away?
I do.
What do you got, man?
I'm opening mine. Mine's a pretty looking can today, I'll be honest. I've got a Victory. It is called my face is in frame, so it's not focusing. The Victory Brotherly Love Hazy IPA.
Hmm.
Little Philadelphia shout out.
Try
Could use a
Philly of
little
you.
brotherly love around here. So
A lot of
it's a
places could
truly
use a little
delicious
Philly.
one. Yeah, this is a one that has been making its way up my regular rankings.
Tyler in the chat is drinking hard Mountain Dew. That's when you know the week's got to come to an end pretty soon.
I was gonna say that's how you know you're our target demo.
Yeah. So I have another Principia one. I had this brewery a while ago, a couple of episodes ago. And this is the Extra Solar New England IPA. So, and if you needed a proof that I live in Mexico, look at that condensation on there. Look at that. That's just really, really going here. That's the rainy season showing on my cold beer. So.
Yeah, you were tweeting like you're experiencing new sun angles.
Yes,
you got a whole thing going on.
The sun's past zenith now.
Does it actually? I thought I looked that up on like timeanddate.com or something, and it says it gets to like 88 degrees or something.
Because if you're below the tropic circle, like the tropic of whatever the north one is, or if you're in the tropics,
yes,
then
it would theoretically cross over you.
You'd cross over, right? So
it's pretty bizarre.
I didn't measure it with
no, it's close enough.
But like it's way past straight up, man. It's like, well, like there's no escape from it. Your shadows are just like, so it's pretty weird.
Yeah, for us that spend our lives in the 60 to 70 degree sun angle.
Yeah.
Totally different.
Yeah, for me, this is winter and this is summer. You know?
Yeah, that was my favorite thing. The first time I went to the UK, and you look at all the satellite dishes that are on everyone's house, and you're just like, how are you even seeing that satellite? That's pointed like directly level. How do you
sideways,
even? Yeah, how do you actually see that?
Yeah. This is the reality we live in. So, yeah. But. Cool. So yeah, man, where do you want to start? Because this is mostly your catch-up show. I know we wanted to talk about Starliner. Maybe we should start with Starliner.
Yeah, you should start with Starliner.
I think some of that stuff probably dovetails into the spacesuit stuff. So.
Starliner is the reason that I like. If you know, I may have put out a show or two where I did talk about Starliner. So I have read up on Starliner, right? I've read the news. I've read the reports.
Yeah, you did the thing again today where you drop an episode like an hour before the show.
I know.
So
again,
I can't listen
Thursdays
to what
are good days for space days. But my thing with it is that Starliner in particular, this mission, there's probably a lot. Like if you a month after Nauka got to the space station went back and read the articles, you probably would have been like, okay, got there, right? But you weren't along for the ride of like, is it going to deorbit? Is it going to kill the space station? So I feel like with Starliner, there was a lot more flavor to the story than I got witnessing it 2 weeks later. Mm-hmm. And that, so I want to like dig into, was there flavor? How flavorful was it? What were the hot takes I missed? And where do we stand with those today? Like, I want to just check in there.
Yeah. Well, there definitely was flavor, but this is the interesting thing. It's really hard to like unpack this one because, like, if you've spent the last 2.5 years like ripping on Boeing for their first flight, if you're the kind of person who's like, oh, Boeing, you really messed up OFT1. Then you went out to the pad and you messed that up with the valves. And doesn't Boeing even know that it gets humid in Florida? Like, who's even running this show? Like, if you've been on that train the whole like 2.5 years since OFT1, you were looking for it. You were like, where's the thing? Where's the thing on this flight that's going to prove me right over the last 2.5 years? Right. That was the mentality, like on, out in the Twitterverse and all that kind of thing. So, every time there was like a momentary flicker of something was off-nominal, it was like mad speculation, like just dumping information everywhere. So it was like really hard to like piece together what was real and what wasn't. So yeah, I thought the launch went pretty well because like the launch countdown was like bang on, like it just happened normally. Like there wasn't even like the same day like push back 30 minutes or something like that. So
now I did watch the launch webcast.
Okay,
but I was also a solo dad at the moment when I was watching it, so I didn't catch 100% of the detail on there. But I'm pretty sure like a couple seconds into the launch, they did a call out for like the clock is right. Is
yes,
they
did.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like just confirming we have quintuple checked and the clock is right. Confirm the clock is right.
Yeah, like, it's the SpaceX cheer in the background.
Yeah, they absolutely did that, and they I think they did it a couple times. I'm trying to remember now because there was one they did it like at right after launch, and then they did it after separation to like confirm that leaving the Atlas, like it came away with the right the right data. So yeah, that was probably the funniest
If not, what
part
were
of
they
the
going to do?
launch.
Catch back up and like try to reset it?
I don't know. I don't know, man. But yeah, so I mean that seemed to go okay, and then you had all the various little things that started to crop up, right? So thrusters didn't work, and then it was like, okay, is that a big deal or not? And they had all these redundant thrusters, so that seemed like it was okay. The thing that was like really straddled the divide of like real and not real and what's going on was this coolant loop thing. So, because the article, like you said, when you go and read the articles after, it's just like they also had a thing with the coolant loop, but it wasn't a big deal, and then they docked.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're on, right? But when that was happening, there was like, especially like in some of the sub communities out there in the world, there was like talk about that being like disastrous. And I don't know if that's true or not. Like I don't know I don't know how severe a coolant loop problem is. But
the article read like they kind of had this fix already in mind. Like it seemed so quick that it was fixed that it was like, okay, no problem. Like little patch update.
Yeah,
sort of like the Ingenuity thing. Like, hey, this thing broke, but we thought about it anyway, and we already did a fix for it.
Yeah. I'm really curious to know how much of this is related to the existing problems, right? Because we knew that there was thruster problems before because they had this whole valve problem on the pad on the first time they tried to do it, like last year, whenever that was.
August.
And that's like that's the Aerojet Rocketdyne stuff, right? Because they built the thrusters.
You fix it. No, you fix it. No, you fix it.
Yeah, and I assume that the whole system is Aerojet. So like the thruster is connected to the manifold, all the pipes that send fuel to it. All that valve system is all like an Aerojet interconnected system. And so I wonder if the thrusters problems on this is related to that. And it was sort of one of those like, on the ground, they're like, look, these thrusters have a bad design. We know that. We've experienced that. We've come up with a bunch of workarounds. We can get through this flight and accomplish all the other things. And then when we get back, we're going to deal with this with the long-term solution. I kind of wonder if that was what was happening there.
And then we're accepting the risk of what is the failure rate going to be on this? Can you survive without it?
Yeah, and they had all this redundancy, and it's just the test flight, and they needed to get the other stuff was so critical, right? Like getting on orbit and docking with the station and all that stuff needed to be figured out, right? And so if you have to redesign the other stuff anyway, and you have until the crew flight to deal with that, do you just proceed with this and get it out of the way? That's my hunch. I don't have a source on that or anything, but that's kind of my hunch on, and they're going to continue this fight with Aerojet about whose fault it is and blah blah blah. So. Is the coolant loop related to that same system? I don't think so, but I don't know. So, yeah.
I think your take's right about that, the thruster thing. Because, I mean, we sort of talked about this last week when I got back and you were trying to catch me up a little bit. Like, systems that are designed to have redundancy are championed when it's announced that way. Like, Falcon 9's got engine out capability. How badass is that? It can lose a whole engine to make it to orbit. And then like 2 of 12 fail and it's like, what the, But it's like, no, that was like, I mean, even Orion's that way, right? The service module has the major maneuvering engine. It's got slightly smaller maneuvering engines, and then it's got the reaction control. And there had to be enough smaller engines that it could do all the burns it needs to do, albeit over a longer period of time, to get back from the moon if the main engine fails. So like that kind of thing is always built into human systems specifically. So
yeah, especially at NASA, right?
Like yes, fixed why it broke, but this was also one of those cases where if it was any other company with any other lead up to this flight, we would have been fine saying, yeah, they said it has redundancy and they proved it has redundancy and all's well. Like it's the context of it being Boeing having the worst last 5 years of any company. For like 8 different reasons. There's just all the context around it makes it seem a lot worse than I think objectively when you say this system is redundant and we use the redundancy. It's like, great, that's cool.
Yeah. And like they absolutely have to fix that for the next flight.
100% before people are on that, figure that out.
You don't want to have like that sort of normalization of deviance where it's like, oh no, it's okay if it breaks because we have redundancy, so we're not going to fix it because then it's not redundant anymore, right?
Well, no, but I think that's the point of redundancy is that it breaks once and then you fix that and then you don't need that. Yes. You don't need that worry anymore. But like the first time it breaks, you don't want it to fail immediately and kill people.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So my take overall was that the flight went like pretty well. I think at the end of the, even today, I'm sure Boeing is probably like, there was things I would have changed if I could have, but at the end of the day, we got the flight done, and now we can focus on crew flight. We have a list of stuff to fix. Like the path forward is probably a lot clearer for them now, and so that's kind of a win, right? That's my. I don't know.
Yeah,
I didn't think it was that bad. People were pretty harshing on its buzz, but
they needed to get this done, and
yes,
there was a slot in the schedule, and if they were going to go fix those valve issues, it wouldn't have happened until next year, and that would have been
that's the other thing
disastrous.
too, right? Because we've got a crowded ISS schedule. Like,
Yeah,
hey, we can slot in here. We're otherwise ready to go. Let's do it, right?
yeah, and the port allocation is a thing that I've harped on a lot. That SpaceX has switched their cargo flights to Dragon 2, which needs to dock instead of berth. There's only two ports that station's got for Dragon Cargo, and Starliner. So, and that's, not even with Dream Chaser coming online soon. So there's doing crew handovers and cargo deliveries. There's just tight windows to get to that port. And up until after Starliner gets its crew flight test done, it is not going to be the priority, because the schedule it's set for the crew that's going up on SpaceX flights. It's set for the cargo that's going there.
Yeah.
So Starliner was always going to get punted until whenever it fits, just like Axiom was a couple of times on the schedule. So it's just like the traffic jam there that doesn't make it easy to get that slot on their schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that makes like a lot. Makes it a lot easier for the ops planners for ISS now, because now that's off the books. They don't have to worry about this random thing coming in that it needs to fit. Because like once it's operational, it'll be one of the 2 flights of the year.
Yeah.
And so like you've already got that kind of factored into the occupancy. But right now you have 2 SpaceX flights happening a year, and this has to be extra. And so like fitting that in is difficult, right? So this is I think for everyone involved, they're very happy that this test is done and mostly successful.
And so what was the context around them saying by the end of the year we'll be ready for crew flight tests? Was that also considering the failures that happened on the mission, or was that like stuff they said even before the launch, like based on our current schedule, if this goes well?
Well, they said it after it. Even is Steve Stitch is the NASA guy, right? Is that the guy? Yeah. So he was like over the moon in his comments, right? 15 out of 10. This is the best flight ever. And that was after he knew everything that had happened, right? And so I'm interpreting that one as maybe more of that NASA optimism. Like the test knocked off all of our checklist of stuff, like ostensibly. And so we think we can proceed with crew flight on the normal notional schedule. I think the rubber will hit the road when they review the data for thrusters, coolant
when they
loops,
dig
and
into
see,
that.
like, is this solvable by the next flight easily, or is there actually like a redesign? And then, so that's where that's how you'll know. Like all the speculation, did the flight go well or did it not go well? When they tell you the plan for a crew flight test one, you'll know whether it was successful or not. Yeah.
There's been a couple of things people have been saying in the chat about SpaceX awarding these extra flights to the ISS after Starliner landed, and I hate to break it to everyone in the chat, but everyone's got a bad take on this one. So I'm ready to unpack.
Everyone's saying that they bought those because of the Boeing flight or whatever, right? Like, the
or because they like SpaceX better, or that's cheaper. I actually don't think it's any of those reasons.
No.
So TLDR on this situation. Not these flight extensions. Are you doing TLDRs today? Do you want me to? I've read up about this one, and there's less flavor to this, so I can provide the TLDR.
Yeah, you know this one better than I do.
So SpaceX, even before this, had gotten extensions for SpaceX Crew 7, 8, and 9, right? 3 additional flights.
Yeah, that's 3, right?
Because they originally, the contract for commercial crew was the flight test program and then 6 operational missions. So SpaceX is flying those. Crew 6 is like late 2023 at this point, or depending on if Starliner flies, it could be like early 2024, but they're basically already through their operational missions that they had contracted. So in March, NASA said, here's 3 more, $775 or $6 million. And then they now announced, they haven't signed the contract yet. They had to announce their intent to award more missions to SpaceX.
It's the sole source, right?
Yeah, so they announced the intent to buy 5 more flights, which would take them all the way through 2030, which is the current demise of ISS. So this has to happen based on everything NASA's planned on previously, because the plan was always fly one Dragon mission and one Starliner mission a year. From like day one, that was NASA's intent when both of these were flying, was that they would tick
2 flights a year. Yeah.
So if you just run the Star-Lionel schedule out, Star-Lionel Richie. It's just
Title
dancing
of the episode,
on the
right?
ceiling, like, playing in the crew capsule at all times. Someone give me a render of him in the puffy Boeing suit. I need Lionel Richie in the Starliner suit. Anyway, if you run the schedule out, right, we said crew flight end of the year, maybe early next. They have to sign off on that crew flight before they get their operational mission assigned. So SpaceX Crew 5 is like next spring, March 2023, April 2023. There's going to be an operational mission in the fall that year. So if crew flight goes well and they get signed off, theoretically Starliner could be that late 2023 flight, but I think it's more likely that they're the early 2024 flight. They have 6 flights, 1 per year. Do the math, 4, you're at 5, 2023.
6, 7, 8, 9, yeah. Okay,
so regardless of whether they could fly Starliner twice a year, whether they could bring the price down on Starliner because we know it was more expensive than Dragon, whether they could magically have a launch vehicle, but there's not enough Atlas 5s left, so they would have to transition to something else, which is honestly, like, yeah, it's a lot of paperwork, but you've got 6 years to do it. You telling me that they can't do whatever the human rating paperwork is for Vulcan? Then you definitely could. So it's honestly just straight up like NASA wants TikTok schedules, and we've only got 6 years to fill out based on the current schedule. So this is SpaceX's award for being efficient and getting flying earlier and having a better cadence to their missions. And that's my soapbox.
Yeah, and I don't think you won't even really notice that difference, because like we've basically already experienced the difference, like the SpaceX flying when Boeing isn't. That's happening now, really. And then once this thing gets going with crew flight and the 6 operational flights, it'll feel like Boeing's just an equal partner. And then that last couple of years, no, the story will not be about Dragon and Boeing in 2029 and 2030 if that's the end of the ISS. It'll be about the end of the ISS.
Totally.
So yeah, you won't even notice about yeah, that's just how it goes. And yeah, there's so much extra stuff for them because I don't know, you'd have to wait. So you have to wait for crew flight to work and then go and certify a bid after that. Like Boeing probably wouldn't be able to sign an extension for 2 more flights even to fill out that last year until 2024. I guess how long it would take them to put that together, maybe late 2023. And so they probably just want to get ahead of it and just get it out of the way, right?
And there was some speculation that people were like, oh, this is NASA putting pressure on SpaceX to not turn off the production line of Dragon. And I don't buy that, because I don't know, the announcement between shutting down production line and this coming out was like not a governmental paperwork cycle away.
No. No. Huh. Yeah, I don't read too much into that for sure.
There's the whole thing about like the other flights that these vehicles would do, right? Where
and I wanted to ask you about this too, because this is I mentioned this on my Red Planet review show, and I thought I was going to catch heat for it. I was waiting for someone to do it, but like I made the suggestion that Boeing, this is a one and done for Boeing. Like Starliner is going to fly these 6 flights and then it's toast, right?
Yeah.
And I said that knowing that there is the plan. Like Boeing is a part. I don't know what the
team member
is. They're a team member on Orbital Reef with Blue Origin as a crew transportation partner. There's lots of renders with Starliner approaching Reef. So, if Reef is successful and NASA gives them more money and they build it and they fly it and it's up there, sure, Starliner could happen. But none of that's a given, right? Like none of that is for sure yet. And so, does Boeing go through with trying to find that extra rocket and doing all the work to swap it over, whether it's Vulcan or New Glenn, which is what Blue Origin would like, right? I wanted to see what your take is on that. Do you think they'll try and market this the way SpaceX has marketed other things, or is it like?
Nah, I think this is it.
Yeah,
they don't want to foot the bill for figuring out a new rocket setup. I would bet more money. Like if I'm doing safe bet Dragon flies to orbital reef. Risky bet. I'd rather bet that Blue Origin's flying their own crew vehicle to orbital reef. You know, like rather than Boeing.
Yeah.
That seems more likely to me. I don't think Boeing's at the point in their life right now where they would want to more heavily commit to something as weird and unsustainable, given that it's not like SpaceX's thing has always been doing missions that are headed directionally in the way that they're heading and of marginal profitability or losing slight money to do it.
Yeah.
You know, so they knew they wanted to get in human space flight, so this program made sense for that.
Which has always been the problem for these old contractors because they don't have a direction. They just make stuff
do
and
missions.
checks, right?
Yeah. This is more akin to Northrop Grumman with Cygnus and Antares. That system, you know, Cygnus is getting a bunch of derivatives with NASA programs, but they're not selling it to other people. They're not flying other payloads on Antares. It was purely built for this program, and maybe relevant to the next topic we'll tackle. But like maybe it's good to have one company who's doing it for your reason second and their reason first, and another company that's doing it for your reason first. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But SpaceX is always the outlier. We always talk about this. They're always the weird outlier.
Well, and so the other side of that coin is, you know, if Starliner was produced to be to play in the market of human spaceflight, and NASA is just one customer, and Boeing wants to offer this service everywhere, all over the place, it has to be competitive because, like, NASA has an interest in having the redundancy and the two providers and keeping Boeing people working, and there's all these other complicated reasons that they'd want to buy Boeing. But like, Jared Isaacman is going to go, how much does SpaceX cost? How much does Boeing cost? Okay, easy decision. Like this, it's not going to be marketable. It's not going to be competitive, right?
Yeah.
So even looking at Orbital Reef, I know that they're a partner, so that does kind of change stuff. But any other, Orbital Reef is supposed to be like this, like open platform. It's like a public square. Anyone can come and hang out. Anyone buying a separate private flight, there's going to be very little reason to go with Starliner unless they do some serious work to bring the cost down. But yeah,
I also don't think that Boeing's sole reason for being part of Orbital Reef is Starliner. Like, I think that was an also ran in the same way that Sierra Nevada or Sierra Space is like, we'll do Dream Chaser 2, but they're building that other habitat. They're building something else. Boeing's building that the experiments module.
They're running they're supposed to be leveraging their ISS operational management, right?
And I think that's what the team member thinks about, not Starliner. I think Starliner was like, cool, put our, we have the IP, maybe we'll fly something one day, like put it in there. But I don't think to
make the renders look good.
I don't think it's like, nor do I think when Boeing was negotiating with Blue Origin about what their role would be, they would be like, we're only doing this if we can fly Starliner to the thing. Maybe they were, but that would be a weird thing to negotiate on.
And Blue probably wouldn't buy that, right?
Right. They'd be like, no, man. Like,
it's an open platform.
We'll figure that out later. Yeah.
All right. There's the puzzle pieces to unwrap over the next 10 years, guys.
I do think that, like, thinking about, you mentioned Jared Isaacman and Polaris program, and Axiom flights are all on Dragons, at least officially through Axiom 4 right now, I think they announced, but presumably always. Like, Dragon's gonna have 30 crew flights when Starliner's got 6. That's. I hate to be a really sour note on this kind of thing, but like, look at human spacecraft over time, and look at when their failures occurred. Was it before or after 7 flights in? Like on average. On average, you don't find all the issues of the human spacecraft until you're like a lot more than 6 flights in. So if Dragon's at 30, and God forbid they would have an issue, but had worked through it at that point, and Starliner's at 6 once a year, and clearly isn't putting a lot of momentum in. Even if you're at that point, and Boeing's trying to find something to do with the Starliner line, like that's a rough spot to be in. Let alone, the Europeans are getting into human spaceflight if it goes the way that it sounds. Blue Origin's probably got some plans up their sleeve. Like, where are we going to be in 2030? And do you think Starliner at that point would have a future? Maybe the Europeans want to buy the Starliner.
Maybe.
It's not the worst idea.
I
Other
can't
than the
imagine
fact
Airbus,
that it's made
Airbus
for
allowing
Boeing.
that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
That's the fastest way for Josef Achbacher to get a bunch of Airbus
Totally.
lobbyists in his office.
Yeah,
like
this is
Toronto
the
cheap fleet.
this is the S330 is this name of this vehicle.
Yeah, they'd be knocking on his door, Schnell, for sure. So,
Yeah.
um, uh,
Yeah, worst prediction to put in the Off-Nominal Discord. Europeans buy the Starliner.
What if they buy the IP and then make Airbus make it?
Yeah, do like the thing that everyone's ruminating on, Orion, I guess, right? That they would like sell the IP commercially or something.
That's interesting.
There it is, Orion. That's the one right there, baby. They already make the service module. That's the one.
That's the one.
You think Orion can't fit on Ariane 6?
I don't know, man. I have not run those numbers. I know it's pretty chunky,
That's a
but-
crackpot theory right there. Put that in. We gotta have like a crackpot theory section of our prediction bot.
Crackpot theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Orion gets bought by Airbus. It would be an amazing one. And honestly would probably make sense. Like that sounds kind of legit.
Yeah. Would Lockheed? I guess Lockheed doesn't own it, right? So they can't really. All right, write that one down.
Crackpot theories.
Check
Put
back,
it in the crackpot
we'll
theory
check back on in the 2030, January
Dude,
2030.
2030. Let's do a show where we like gather whatever crackpot theories. I'm gonna make a document in our thing right now that says crackpot theories. I'm doing it right now.
Oh man. Okay. Well, I think that's the signal to move on to the next topic then. So spacesuits. So the news, of course, Collins Aerospace and Axiom are. I don't want to say received contracts. Is that right? Is this the right word? They said contracts.
They
or
did get
said
money.
Award. Did they get money?
They got some guaranteed money, apparently,
Okay,
or they
all right.
will receive. Maybe they haven't yet, but like,
See, this is the thing, man. It's very confusing. It's a very interesting structural
yeah.
award.
I hope you have some theories about why that is.
I kind of do, yeah. So they, at very least, these two companies are onboarded into the new spacesuit program. So they're going to be eligible to compete for task orders from NASA to provide spacesuit services for the ISS and for lunar surface missions with Artemis. So the whole program is like over the next 12 years. So from now until 2034. Has a cost ceiling of $3.5 billion that would split among all the companies and all the task orders they award. Could be less than that if they don't need to spend that much. And then the individual task orders should be focused on like, I need a suit for this EVA on ISS expedition 76 or whatever it is, and how much will you charge for that? And there's probably some milestone ones too that I'm missing. I don't know what the task orders are going to look like, and then that'll be like, that'll be $200 million or something, right? And then they'll get that. And this comes on the heels. So there's a question here about XEMU. So this comes on the heels of NASA spending a long time, like 15 years or something, like some ungodly amount of time developing the XEMU suit. Which is that? Remember, there was that hasty Jim Bridenstine press conference where they had the girl out there with the blue and the red, white, and blue XEMU issue. So NASA had been like developing that like as a cost plus contractor with ILC Dover, I think, and it was not going well. So like 15 years, it wasn't ready. It didn't work well enough. It was not producing results up to speed, which is why it took so long. And they spent a bunch of money on it. There was a scathing, was it OIG report that came out, like GAO report or something like that, that said like, yeah, this is just a waste of money. It's not going to be like, this is now your long pole item for Artemis. Like it's not the lander anymore. It's the damn suits. So you're going to be able to get there and not walk out on the surface if you don't, clean up your act. And so they pivoted and they offered this thing here. So I guess the IP from this is going to be available to these contractors in some capacity.
That's what they say. Yeah.
And I also I'm pretty sure Collins was already part of that existing contract team, whether they were a subcontractor to ILC Dover. So there might be some like mushy crossover
Mm.
there of the same contractors kind of practice. Axiom feels like they're pretty new, but the Collins side of it, maybe, we're repackaging this and giving you the money in a different way.
Yeah, I
Which is
mean,
not the
ILC
worst thing.
Dover's
But
on their team, so yeah, like
yeah. So, so that's kind of what happened. So I guess, do you want to start with the structure? Like, what do you think of that? Just reading as you catch up.
it just sounds like, well, they're being very dodgy as well about like how much money was spent on this, and they won't tell us
Mhm.
that, nor will they tell us when the task orders come out. They said they won't say the price of the task orders either. The task order based thing is bizarre for this because it's not
It
like
is.
Clips, the commercial lunar payload services, right? The idea there was onboard a bunch of companies that are making moonlanders because there was a bunch
Yeah.
already announced,
Yeah, because there's
and
like 14 on that list or something. Like there's a lot of
tons.
companies
Yeah,
on there, right? Yeah.
yeah, in the teens. And this is the way that even some of the like Department of Defense launch vehicle contracts work. That there's a bunch of launch vehicles out there, so we'll onboard all these providers. We'll put out these task orders for certain missions to fly on their standardized vehicles, and then they will say, "Oh, that where we're at right now, that'll cost you $8 million to do that, small satellite to this orbit," and they can pick them. This feels like we don't have our budgetary ducks in a row to be able to have an official spacesuit program. So we do have a couple 100 million laying around. What was in the latest budget? Like 150, $200 million,
150, I
something
think.
like
I
that,
think it was 150.
in that
Yeah.
ballpark. This feels like let's disperse that money to vendors and figure out how to get the money for spacesuits later, and also figure out, like, we don't know what the hell spacesuits we need. We haven't figured those plans out yet. When are you going to need a spacewalk on the Gateway? I don't know. I don't know what order the Gateway's launching. I don't know how many flights we're getting there. I don't know how often Orion's launching. So it feels like both trying to dodge around not having money for it yet in the budget, and also not having plans that you can specifically say we need 6 moonwalking suits and we need 4 EVA suits for the Gateway.
Yeah.
And that concerns me
Yeah.
greatly.
Yeah, and that's an interesting take on it. And I had a kind of a similar but a little bit different idea too, in that, so you have, like, it feels weird that you get a suit as a service, and I know, like, if you like
SAS.
take the
Suits
the
as a service.
yeah, like, take the preconception out of it. Like, I know it's more important than renting a tuxedo for a wedding. Like, but it's kind of similar. Like, it's
I hope it's at least
it's
higher
pretty
quality,
similar.
because
Yeah,
and with
yeah,
better
yeah.
return timeline.
But, like, it's still going to be a used suit that smells like another person, like, when you
Yeah.
get down to it, right?
But it's got to be
So-
back at JSC the next day after you get back from the moon.
Yeah.
You haven't even adjusted to gravity or gotten over your hangover yet, but you got to get this here by 10 a.m. the next day.
Yeah. So, but my guess is, though, so related to the funding and also related to who we're talking about here. So if you watch the press conference, it was super, like, old guard NASA. It was like, it was a Johnson press conference, and you had all the Johnson people, and it was in Houston, and this kind of, you have this old school contractor in Collins, which has been around for a long time, doing all sorts of things. And then you have Axiom, which is kind of like an old school
Yeah,
NASA
careful now.
contractor
Don't say new.
in disguise. In disguise, right? Because
Totally.
like it's a shiny new company doing cool things, but it's being run by Mike Suffredini, right? So there's a little bit of both in there, right? So it felt very insidery, like it felt very old guard NASA insider thing.
Mike Suffredini showed up at the press conference like this.
yeah. Hello, all my fellow former employees. But so the thing I was kind of wondering, and this is total pure speculation, so, like, just throw me under the bus if I'm way off. That includes you listeners. But, like, cost plus is now a faux pas. Like, it's not cool to talk about cost plus anymore. It's cool to talk about fixed price. And if you want to win over Congress now, you have to say, we're changing everything. It's going to be cheaper. We're empowering the commercial industry. We're revitalizing American businesses with this fixed price fee. It's good for NASA. It's good for the industry. Shiny, shiny, shiny. You got to say that to get the money. And so I kind of wonder if this is just like a fixed price in kind of all but name, because when you compare it to CLPS, you have these one and done flights that are task orders. So Intuitive Machines, here's $100 million to take this lander to the surface, and then we're done, right? And so that's like a true fixed price service. then Intuitive Machines could not win any other contracts after that. But there's only two providers here, and it's a huge cost ceiling, $3.5 billion. It's like more than they gave SpaceX for the freaking lander. And so there's no real limit to how many task orders you could give. You could just keep giving task orders to these companies in the same way you might with a cost plus contract, right? Oh yeah, we need a little more. Give us another task order. Okay, here you go, right? And we're going to award you this milestone, this milestone. So I don't know. I kind of felt like this is sort of, how can we do the suits in the same old cost plus way while making it feel fixed price so that Congress likes it and gives us money for it, and we don't have the flack anymore.
Yeah, I guess that mine's like a version of that, right? Where it's like, we haven't talked to Congress yet, and so, but whenever we do, whatever they put in the budget, we're just gonna do a task order for exactly as much as in the budget and say, like,
and that too, yeah,
like 2023 suit work, here it is, like bill it to JSC.
So it's interesting. I'm really curious to see what the task orders look like, and what the prices are for those, as much as we'll get to see them. But it'll be interesting. I'm not super enthused by this quite yet. I think it has a lot more to prove.
This is a weird one.
Mm-hmm.
This is the concerning thing, though. What if, are we getting to the point where there's going to be one of these contract setups that's like using all the right language for the wrong service, and then it totally takes the whole thing down? Yeah. That's a major concern.
Because compared to Dragon and Starliner, there's at least like an inkling of a market for that, right? And SpaceX is well able to use those funds for their rocket, which is definitely a market for, that one. That's the textbook example of how you want this to work out, Falcon 9. But who's gonna? I mean, I think Axiom's the only super big winner out of this, because they're going to develop suits anyway for their suits. So now they can offer this extra service. They get NASA funding for it. Like, huge win for Axiom. Great strategic move for Axiom. But I don't know, is Collins going to sell their spacesuit services to someone?
Right. I guess theoretically they could sell it to the Blue Origin people or whatever. But I also kind of feel like Blue is doing that weird little one-person spacecraft. Like, they're doing this version of scuba diving. Ride on this little crazy scooter thing. Right. This is like the Blue spacesuit model, right? Mm-hmm, and so do they want? I don't know. And it's even beyond the market. There were monetary figures you could look up to estimate launch costs and spacecraft production costs. But when's the last time somebody made a spacesuit that also had an accountant nearby? Yeah. I don't know. How do you estimate? How do you figure out what a spacesuit costs?
The only data we have is XEMU, and that was
right.
Not going
it wasn't great.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's interesting. And SpaceX is going to make their own. So they're not going to be a potential customer. No one else is going to the moon anytime soon. Yeah. So you're not going to use these. The lunar surface suits they're going to be Artemis suits, whether you call it fixed price or cost plus or not. And I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know what they, but what's really curious though, so if they're selling these lunar suits as part of Artemis, and SpaceX is not part of the program, are they going to fly a Collins spacesuit on the Artemis lander, on the Starship, and then these SpaceX astronauts get out in I don't know. It's really interesting, but
you open the closet in the airlock and it's some really sleek looking suits, and then the Collins one. You're like,
yeah. And sorry,
guess you can't I gotta wear this one.
You don't have a license for this one. There's a free trial. You can try it on if you want. But it's
didn't
not
buy that
available.
Service
unless you swipe your credit card on the thing here. You're not going to be able to.
It'd be amazing. It's locked in a locker, the little phone chargers to go. Need a spacesuit?
Total SpaceX move to it. Just we had a bunch of extra space on the Starship. You didn't buy this space, so we're flying. Yeah. We're just flying some suits to test them, and they're going to be in a nice glass display case so you can see them when you walk out.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, all you said was 100 kilograms of this spacesuit, so we put Iron Man style suit displays up in the airlock.
Oh man, that's
incredible.
Just brutal. So yeah, so Axiom's going to use their suits. Only accept shift port payments. Yeah.
So good.
We've cracked it. There it is. Shift port payments.
God, that's good.
Oh man. Okay. So yeah, so that's that's that. I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know what Collins is gonna do other than just collect task orders like a cost plus contract. Axiom hopefully will run with it, but
Yeah, I mean, this is the same thing, right? That they picked a contractor that we clearly know what Axiom's plans are in the future. They're going to have a space station. They're going to do spacewalks. They're building this anyway. So this is the thing that SpaceX always gets on about. Like, we're going this direction. This is relevant enough to our mission. Come on board. You can defray the cost for us, and we'll build it. And it might be suboptimal because it's to your specs, but some of those are good specs anyway. Let's do it. Collins is like, we're here if you need us, you know?
yeah, they're the Starliner of this
Right.
arrangement.
They're the Starliner. They're the Antares. It is what it
They'll
is.
get their six operational spacesuit services, and then Axiom will sell the other 30 or whatever it's going to be.
The weird thing is, though, that, like, so in the hypothetical future where SpaceX gets onboarded to this, like, Jared Isaacman will have paid most of the cost of building a spacesuit, I guess. So there's going to be, like, very little development needed. So, like, SpaceX could avoid interacting with this program until they need to. And then...
And this is the other weird thing, though, right? Because you have to imagine, so SpaceX is definitely building a suit for EVA. We know that. They're probably going to build one for the moon because they got the lander.
Yeah. Yeah, they're working on that.
So the question is, did they compete for this spacesuit award? And I think we know. I can't remember it. Like, probably, right?
I think
like,
they were in the list, yeah.
I'm pretty sure they did. So why didn't they win? Because they probably had a really, really good price.
Yeah.
Knowing that they're already getting a bunch of Jared Isaacman money and they're going to do it anyway.
Right.
They probably did the same thing they did with Starship, where they like really underbid it because they said we're going to put our own money in and you don't have to cover it, NASA. So if they like really won on price, why didn't they get an award here? And I know there's a whole discussion about, let's get some new contractor blood in here, and I'm all on board with that. But I'm still curious.
That's not a governmentally defensible selection choice. Though.
Government procurement laws really has to take price into effect. And so, did they bid too high?
It doesn't have to take price into effect. It has to just follow the rules that they set out of the contracting.
Right.
And most set price as a major rule, but it doesn't have to be. That's a slim delineation I want to make.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
So maybe
if you put out a proposal, you say this is our criteria that we will decide against. You don't have to include price in that list.
Right. So if the selection criteria that was in the RFP for this did not delineate price or weighted price way down, theoretically they could have lost on, I don't know, like it wasn't a good suit. Like I don't know.
Maybe they half-assed the EVA one or something. Like we don't care about EVAs, and here's our EVA suit. You're tethered like Gemini and like Jared Isaacman will be.
That's an interesting thing that someone's got to.
Well, that source selection document will be out in a month or something, right? It won't have money figures in it, but it will have their like rating thing.
Criteria. Yeah. Okay, well that's what I'm keeping an eye on.
Back
something doesn't add up there to me. I don't know. It's like they should have bid and they probably bid low. So why didn't they win? And blah, 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 blah.
Whatever. Well, at least we know what Polaris, the fourth mission, will be. It's only 3 right now, but
Yeah. Okay.
Spacesuits, man.
Spacesuits. Yeah. You think they're going to onboard other suppliers later? You think that'll be a thing?
I guess.
Is there enough services to buy to?
Well, that's my whole thing. I think this is set up this way because they just haven't figured out which ones they need yet when. Like, I don't know. I mean, the telling thing about how this program's going is if you see these companies announce partnerships with the commercial LEO station companies that are not Axiom. Whether that's Nanoracks buying Axiom suits or buying Collins suits or whatever, or one of these getting onboarded as a partner on Orbital Reef, then you'll be like, okay, like the commercial thing made sense a little bit. And because NASA on the commercial LEO thing, and I think this is important to remember, they are not going to award a commercial LEO station and then also buy a bunch of stuff around it, like transportation and spacesuits and all that. They're buying end-to-end services from that station. everything
Here's
that
my
entails:
astronauts. They got to go
transportation,
spend 6 weeks
cargo.
up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's up to those companies how they want to handle
Yeah.
that. So, Axiom in this case, they want to have spacesuits for their maintenance of their own station and for, excursions that people are going to pay for to go out and do a spacewalk. So
Right.
NASA doesn't care if your space station requires spacewalks or not. Like, they probably prefer that it doesn't, so they don't have to go outside and do those things.
Mhm.
But like, yeah, the whole like commercially blooming part of this fixed price task order based thing doesn't ring true to me here, but it does ring true that it's just like this is a way to delay putting actual requirements around specific missions until we figure that out.
Mm.
And in the meantime, we
Yeah.
can go, to Congress and ask for that amount of money.
Right. Well, lots to unpack with that.
We shall see.
We shall see.
What else
Man.
happened? We got Ingenuity's all screwed up.
It is. Yeah, it's suffering a little bit. So it's winter in the northern hemisphere on Mars. It's cold. And so the first thing that really happened was they basically ran out of power because at night the heaters turn on and it was colder and colder. So they turned on sooner and sooner and sooner. And then they ran out of energy and it went into safe mode. And then the clock reset. And there was this whole thing where it was like calling home at the wrong time. But they recovered that and they turned the threshold down. So they're just like, the only real option on a tech demo like this is just let it suffer in the cold and see if it survives, right? Like, we don't know what the actual robustness of this hardware is in the cold. We never tested it for that. Let's just, instead of turning the heaters on at 0 degrees, to turn it on at minus 40 degrees is basically what they did, right? And so it's being exposed to cold right now, but it saves the energy, so they're able to recover that. It's a dusty season, so there's even less energy to get. So it's like kind of a rough thing. But then they were spinning it up the other day, so they're trying to get ready for another thing, and they're testing it now just to make sure that the cold is, not hitting it. And the inclinometer is broken on it. So I guess there's like when it lands, it has a two-way inclinometer to, so on the x-axis and the y-axis to tell what the tilt is, right? So is it like up like this? Like, what's the landing position of the helicopter? Because that dictates what you do as soon as you take off, because you got a level, right? So the inclinometer provides that starting point data. This is your starting state. And then when you lift off, you need to correct it to this. So they don't have that information anymore. But they can use the IMUs, which are the things you use after you start flying, kind of in that, initial phase and the landing phase, to like see what your orientation is. It's apparently less accurate, but it works. So they are able to do that, and they already knew this was going to happen. Like, it was like a hunch that the inclinometer would go after a while, and so they actually wrote all the software to switch it over, basically just like a little piece of code that goes in between where the inclinometer passes the information to the flight computer is now just going to be intercepted by IMU data, and they should be okay. That's the idea. So,
but are they doing stuff while they wait for the cold, or is it like they're down for a few months? Like, what's the operational plan?
I thought they were going to dump a bunch of data, and they did one big flight. Like, they uploaded, because it's been like lagging behind the rover for a while. Like, it's been trying to catch up because it had to go this whole crossing of this sandy area. So it's been like really like on the far edge of the range envelope, and the signal strength wasn't high enough to like really juice up the data. But now it's caught up, and the rover's going slower because it's doing science again. It's not like booking it across the crater right now to get to the delta. So they uploaded like a whole big flight, but I think they're a couple flights behind. Like, there's still just a bunch of data sitting on the hard drive on Ingenuity, solid state drive, whatever it is, in the long-term storage. I don't think they have a hard drive on the Ingenuity, but
they have an iPod
so
Shuffle. It's just hacked.
Yeah, yeah, you just gotta. So I thought they were going to do that, but I don't know. Maybe just power isn't that bad, because that takes a bunch of data to really, to fire the transmitter off like that, or it takes a bunch of energy to do that. So we'll see. Yeah, but this is kind of what we expected. It's supposed to have lasted 5 flights. We're at 28 now. 29 is coming up. And it's an off the shelf, like, it's basically like an Android phone with a propeller. So it's like, it's, it's not really designed to last this long in this weather. So, good for it.
Huh. So it doesn't have enough power to fly over to Insight and save it.
It still should be able to save up the energy and do it. Like, they're getting ready for it, and
to fly to Insight and save Insight.
Oh, not to Insight, no, to Perseverance. Not to Insight.
No,
No, no, no,
no.
no, no. Insight's. The time has come.
Yeah.
So.
Are there any good conspiracy theories about how Insight's going to die and yet they detected the largest Mars quake ever? Makes you think.
It does make you think.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's just luck. Some good luck for this mission, finally.
Yeah, I needed it.
It had to balance out after
It
the
needed
land
it.
insight selection and the
Yeah.
dirt and the
Ooh.
dust devils. But
Surviving this long was not a level 1 priority.
no,
Jake,
actually, this time.
we've got a rip-roaring episode next week.
How much reading have you done?
I have a lot more reading to do. And
Okay, you
yeah,
do, all right.
not a lot, but I have a solid amount of reading to do. Like, 20 minutes a night gets me there.
Yeah.
So at last show with Lauren Lyons, we talked about how Lauren has been on our list forever.
Yeah.
This next guest has been on our list for maybe longer.
I'm pretty sure she was on like the original, like, hey, we should start this show called Off-Nominal. Who would we have on it? And then we made like a short list of like 5 or 6 names, and I'm pretty sure she was on it.
And there's no guesses in the chat yet, and I'm surprised by that. But this is tied to a book release that's coming out in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Lori Garver is going to be on here, and boy, when you read the first chapter of her book, is she not holding back anything
No.
about her time at NASA, elsewhere in the space policy sphere. It is an epic takedown of all of her haters. It is going to be amazing.
Yeah. It's I'm like a third of the way through, and like it doesn't stop. So
It's unreal.
there was like, and I'm just getting to the point where she's like getting into the NASA administrator, a deputy administrator role, and it's like, whew,
yeah,
right,
it doesn't
here
get
we
less
go.
spicy as you go.
Here
Early on
So-
in the book, there was so much of like these weird little moments of how DC actually works, where she's like talking to 2 parties of an agreement, and no one has agreed to anything, but she's telling both that they did, so that they will both agree to a thing, and it's just like this epic puppet mastering that she's doing. It's just incredible. Tyler's asking if the book's out now. It is not out now. It is, so she's coming on next Thursday. It'll be out the following week. It'll be
so
out
we're
like
a
the
few days
Tuesday
before,
the
yeah.
following week. Yeah. So the book is called Escaping Gravity. Is that correct? If it didn't change from our
Escaping
preprint.
Gravity. No.
Making sure of that. I'm pumped. This is gonna be amazing.
I'm excited. It's gonna be a heck of a show. I think it's gonna be really good. So yeah, pretty stoked.
Be there next week. What else do we need to talk about? Memberships?
Memberships. If you like the show, everybody, please help support us by joining iPhone or iOS or mobile up here, desktop down here, down this way. $5 a month gets you on the Off-Nominal Discord, which is the coolest place to hang out. We had a interesting discussion today related to the mobile launcher. That was the other news that we could have covered too. But the mobile launcher 2 for SLS, which I had another scathing OIG report come out.
Should have been a
today.
task order based fixed price contract.
Should have been a task order based mobile launcher contract, because it's like a bajillion dollars over budget and 10 years behind schedule, and we're not even anywhere close to it launching. So we had a good discussion about that today, about what could go wrong with it. So it's been pretty fun. So if you want to hang out with us and talk about these things as they happen, you should pop into the membership, because it's a lot of fun, and it helps us pay for this, because it's our job.
It is.
We need salaries. We got beers to buy.
We got beers to buy and shit posts to do, like this one on Twitter earlier that Jake did. NASA going into the UAP domain. Which is the worst.
Wasn't that weird today? Like, it was a
worst.
press conference. They announced a press conference like an hour before it happened. They're like, rush us out. We're going to talk about aliens. Go.
Yeah, this time it is about aliens.
Yeah. So anyway, that's how that goes. So yeah. And then
bad
you
news.
put it on an episode today if you want more Starliner talk, right, Miko?
It was Starliner. It was, yeah. I mean, you probably got most of it, to be honest, but there's maybe a little more detail around some of the stuff that we talked about. And, it's 30
Cool.
minutes of, talking about Commercial Crew, which I don't often talk about Commercial Crew at these days, because it's just been doing its thing. So
Yeah.
it felt like a good time to dive into it.
Cool.
What you got?
next week I'll have an episode in We Martians. It's semi-related, so we're going to talk about the lunar program at NASA, the lunar science program, and how it's like kind of tangled up with Artemis and human spaceflight and technology development. You know, like CLIPS is not in the planetary science division, and what's the decadal saying about that, and how do we do good science, and how do we... There's a lot of questions I have about the weird, you know, it's very different from the Mars program. So I have a good guest coming on to talk about that and you know, unpack it. We'll see if we can figure some stuff out.
Sounds legit.
Yeah.
You gonna ask about the moon suits or what?
We'll see. I wonder how much of the science objectives are making it into those requirements.
Yeah,
Probably
I doubt
not
it.
very many.
Not yet, anyway. Maybe the task orders once they get around.
Gotta have pockets. Gotta have pockets. That's about the only thing that's gonna be in there.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully, it has a tool belt.
Tool belt, pockets, and a selfie cam. That's about it.
Yeah. Most important part.
Anybody. All right.
All right.
See you later, all. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.